Just give me a wee second to get Facebook on board, please. Then we'll get this show underway. Okay, that's Facebook on board. Now, folks, as you can see, I'm on my own again today. I'm sorry to report that David has had a severe setback in his recovery, and he won't be joining us for a while. So for the next wee while, on the Monday and the Thursday, you'll be getting an Indie Truck Davies style report, because Mr. Milligan is not fit to be with us. I can't tell you what the problem is at the moment until he gives me permission to tell you. But at this point in time, I'm afraid we'll be back to the Indie Truck Davy format for the foreseeable future. It's serious. I'm afraid the setback is really serious. So you'll have to put up with me, guys. Okay, I see Facebook's on board. Hi, Jane. Who else we got? Hi, John. Mainly YouTubers. We're up there the 100 mark, folks. So I'd just like to tell you that once again, the channel has broke the 2,000 mark. I'll share the image with you. I'll show you the dashboard for the channel that I have in my studio on YouTube. So we'll share that with you just now. And as you can see, the channel is now 2,221 subscribers, which is great news. Also down here, you can't see it, but so far this month, thanks to your generosity, folks, we have now hit £1,525 to come in for YouTube later this month for the food banks, which is really great. So, channel's going well, folks, and thanks very much. We're viewing times up. We're viewing hours is up. Subscriptions up. So thank you very much to you all. As to the Mr. Milligan situation, I'm hoping to go and see him tomorrow. He's back in the Southern General. So hopefully I'll be able to give you an update on his condition on Thursday, folks. Okay, I want to take that back down again. So anyway, let's get this broadcast. Thank you, Duncan. Thank you very much. I'll just put that up. At least I'll try to put it up. So let's get this show underway. Indie Truck Davy out the truck, not home in his office in Salisbury, North Lanarkshire, where it's quite a nice day, quite muggy, sticky, 19 degrees. Okay, that's the weather forecast for Salisbury, North Lanarkshire. You want to know the weather's like where you are? Look out your own bloody window and maybe drop a comment in the comments to let me know how it is where you are. Okay, right, first up, couple of weeks after the election, and the SNP have done a fair bit of bloodletting and blaming each other for what happened. Now, First Minister John Swinney says the party has to get a grip and change before the 2026 election, or they could well lose it, which is pretty true. So here's some of the changes that Davy thinks needs in the party. Okay, time to kill the idea that those who lost their seats at Westminster should be catapulted in to stand for Holyrood. That's a stupid idea, although we had some really talented MPs down there. If the people haven't voted for them, and thanks Stephen, the people haven't voted for them in the Westminster election, what makes the party think they're going to vote for them at the Scottish election? So this notion that the so-called heavy hitters, if you're down the road, should be parachuted in to Scottish constituencies or regions, I don't think it's a good idea. If people didn't vote for them for Westminster, why would they vote for them for here? They've had their crack at it. Obviously the people were dissatisfied with them. Why would they vote for them in Holyrood? Stupid idea. The second thing they need to do is stop ignoring the membership. When the membership have or give the party a directive at conference then the party should bloody well carry it out. This isn't Westminster. And the hierarchy aren't there to overrule the membership. So that's another thing that needs to change. All right. They need to get the branch network sorted out, and they have to sort out the network for councillors. One of the reasons why we shed so many councillors at the last election was because councillors couldn't get any backup. They were actually leaving the party after being elected to the party, by the party into office, or by the people into office for the party. So they need to sort that out and all. But they need to sort out the branch network. They also need to get the policy forums up and running again, so that the branch members feel that they are contributing and driving the direction of the party. Right, which brings us back to they need to stick to what the branch members tell them they want. At that last election, we wanted SNP for independence on the ballot paper. We voted for it. It was passed at conference. Did it end up in the ballot paper? No, because John was a bit wishy-washy on this. Because it was a Westminster election rather than a Scottish election. Right. You need to get back to your primary. They also need to get back to the primary objective of independence. People have lost faith that that's what the SNP stand for, getting Scotland free. As I say, that's down to this wishy-washy approach that they've had. They need to engage with the wider Yes movement before there's no movement left. The party backed away in 2012 to allow a grassroots people-based movement to form. That was the right thing in 2012 to 2014. It had to be the people driving it. But after the loss in 2014, when the movement had no direction, that is when the SNP should have stepped in, set out what the route was to independence, and took control and led the movement. But they didn't. So they need to engage with the wider movement, and they need to lead the wider movement, and need to get back the wider movement's belief that they are going to get us out of the line. Right? And that brings us to the last thing I think they really need today. And that is, they really need to pick a route to independence, stick their badge on it, and make the public aware of it, and stick to it. Whom's as good as a route? The party and some of the MPs that don't have their fucking seats anymore fought them on that route. They had a clear route. That clear route would have worked. Okay. Now, the other thing about the 2026 election that people don't get, this election had the lowest turnout on record. Reason people couldn't vote. The poor amongst us, who are the SNP supporters, after all, we stole Labour's supporters, have stolen back now at this election. But they didn't have access to the vote. No ID, no money to buy ID, and no advertising and tell them how to get it for the council. So a lot of people were disenfranchised. Then we did the fuck up with the postal vote. We ain't going to have these problems at the Scottish election. The franchise is open to everybody, so there'll be a huge turnout compared to what there was. And that SNP vote that couldn't have a say in the 2024 Westminster general election, they will have a say in the 2026 Scottish election. So things might not be as bad as the party thinks. A lot of our supporter base couldn't vote in that general election. They will be able to vote in the 2026 election. And they'll vote SNP provided the SNP can convince them that they're back to business. Joe, you want on a notice step, help yourself, but don't burn your arse in the counter and candle and don't be late. Okay. Right, so that's the SNP. Saying they're needing to change. Well, these are some of the ideas I have for them to change. Get back to fucking business and sort out the party's branch network get the policy forums up and running again. And these has-beens for Westminster, don't be parachuting them in for a seats in Holyrood, regional or constituency, because the people didn't vote for him in 2024. What makes them think the people's going to vote for him in 2026? Right, moving on. Poverty Pie makes the news. That's Anna Sarwar, for those out with these grounds. The soon-to-be ex-leader of Scottish Labour, which doesn't exist, as we know. There is only the Labour Party of the United Kingdom. There is no Scottish Labour. It doesn't exist. But as we know, political parties can have up to 12 regional names, according to the Electoral Commission. So the Labour Party of the UK can legitimately call itself the Labour Party of Scotland. A lot of bollocks, they don't exist. Right, anyway, Poverty Pie's back in the news. He's demanding that Starmer goes ahead and puts the headquarters for GB Energy in Aberdeen. So obviously, Starmer must have been thinking about backtracking on that. Otherwise, Sarwar wouldn't be making demands. But I don't know what the big deal is. As we know, GB Energy is going to be a PPFI, a public-private finance initiative. It will not produce any energy. It won't bring down bills, as they're claiming. What it will do is, it will see 12 or 15 financial experts get jobs in the northeast of Scotland. That's it. That's all there is to it. All right. So why start? But if Sarwar's having to demand that Starmer sticks to his word and puts this headquarters for 10 or 12 financial experts who are going to fritter away public money investing in private finance initiatives, then obviously something's been said where they're maybe going to backtrack on the statements they made here publicly in Scotland to win that election. Absolutely mental. Hey, right. And next time, this one perplexed me. You know, the Labour Party have said they're going to change planning in England to make building houses easier. So, what do the news outlets here in Scotland do? They have a go at the Scottish planning system because it's devolved. Any changes that Rachel Reeves makes in England and Wales won't affect Scotland. Anyway, but what they don't seem to realise here is they're attacking the planning system here in Scotland. Is that our 14 years of austerity, the town planning offices right across the council regions in Scotland have been hollowed out. There's been less investment in it. And of course, those leaving university with planning degrees in town planning, city planning, that sort of thing, they're getting into the private sector. They get better wages. So planning is a problem because councils haven't invested. There's nobody there to make decisions on planning. Planning offices are empty. As I say, also the amount of people getting into town planning has dropped by 15 to 17% across the UK. So, planning consent is difficult to get. But when you've not got anybody qualified in the planning offices to say, aye, good idea, bad idea, put this out of consultation, then of course you're going to get bottlenecks in the planning system. The other thing they're talking about is this changing to planning maybe open up for houses to be built. Well, what we do know is that here in the UK, and especially here in Scotland, when you go to the builders, they'll tell you they're building 17% less houses than what they were in 2022. And it's down to two things: Brexit and the cost of living crisis. Brexit put two distinct problems in the road of house builders. That is skill shortages, and it almost trebled the price of importing building materials. And the other thing, as I say, is affecting the amount of houses being built is affordability. Builders are not going to build houses that people can't afford to buy. Simple as that. And that ain't going to change when we've got NIMBYism everywhere, not in my backyard. That's got to be tackled. People are objecting. Thanks, Dexter. People are objecting to new houses being built in their areas because it will bring down the price of their houses. So what? If you want your kids to have somewhere to live, we need to get control over our rent. We need to get control over our house prices. We need to cap the cost of housing based on the amount of bedrooms I've got to say. So 1 bedroom house, this is the maximum you can charge for it. 2 bedroom house, this is the maximum you can charge for it. 3 bedroom house, this is the maximum you can charge for it. And you make it universal. Because at this point in time, builders are telling us they're not building houses that nobody can afford to buy. Mental. So, yeah, planning is a problem in Scotland as well as right across these islands. And it's down to austerity, it's down to and people don't want to get into planning. And they have money in it. There are very few jobs in it at all. And those who do qualify are going to the private sector. Something like that. So, all this talk about planning in England and Wales kicks up a lot of bollocks here in Scotland, the answers to which we already know. The answers are to rejoin the single market and bring down material prices. The answer is to open up the labour market so that the people who left can come back in. And cost control. We need to control rents. We need to control house prices to make it affordable. Right, moving on. Manufacturing in the devolved nations up, while manufacturing in England down in 2023-2024. That's for April 23, April 24. And that's according to a new study by the manufacturing body, Make UK. All right. The manufacturing in Wales has done the best out of the regions and nations. Manufacturing jobs in Wales up 13,000. In Scotland, manufacturing jobs are up by 10,000. In Northern Ireland, manufacturing jobs are up by 2,000. In England, manufacturing jobs are down by 34,000, with the only region of England actually maintaining or improving manufacturing figures, and that's the South East. Everything that faces that channel seems to do well. Okay, now what we also learn in this report is that UK-wide there is a skill shortage of 64,000 people in the manufacturing sector. There's a lot of more manufacturers needing workers than that 64,000. That 64,000 are the engineers and the skilled workers. They're not the production line putters, the gatherers, if you like. Those who knock it together after it's been designed and things like that. We're talking about people who maintain the machinery and do the designing. That's the 64,000. So it would appear that England's decline continues, and Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland are doing that bit better. But it might well be because we've invested in skills training here. The Scottish Government and the SNP government have had a programme of skills training going on for a long time now with the Sure Start programme, where young people have a route into work, a route into further education, or a route into skills training. So that might explain why, and it's probably the same in Wales and Northern Ireland, that might explain why manufacturers are fancying Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland better than they're fancying England, who, as far as I'm aware, don't invest in skills. Right. So it would appear that although the UK is in decline, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland are faring better than England at this point in time. Right. So if you want, this is the big problem here in the UK. And I mean a big problem. Our workforce is in terminal decline. We have an ageing population. We have governments that haven't invested in the health of the population or the education of the population. And if you want to have a successful economy, it's no rocket science, kids. You need a healthy, well-educated population. The UK does not have that. It doesn't. Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland are faring a wee bit better than England. But ultimately, the budgets are all set in Westminster. So we'll be going backwards too. So, as I say, unless you invest in the education and the health of your people, something we've been doing here for the last 17 years, then your population doesn't prosper. And that seems to be a big problem in England at this point in time. And it is something that's going to have to be sorted. And it doesn't look as if the Labour Party, unfortunately, are going to have the finance to cover all the different things that need fixed down that road. And if they don't have the money to fix it down that road, then they won't get fixed and consequences will fritter away for the devolved nations. Simple as that. Right. Labour comes under pressure to scrap the 2-child cap. And that goes back to what I've just said about investing in your population. Anyway, according to what we've been told, Labour cannot find the £2.5 billion required to scrap the 2-child cap on benefits and the rate clause. It's funny how there's always money for war, but there's never money to keep people out of poverty or to raise children out of poverty. Huh? You can't find 2.5 billion to lift children out of poverty. But last week, Sir Comrade Starmer of the Red Conservative Party announces a 3.9 billion, thanks very much, Alexis, a 3.9 billion aid package per year to Ukraine to the year 2030, 2031. I've got a great idea for Mr. Starmer. How about we set the budget that we're going to give Ukraine to fight the Russians at 1.4 billion and take the 2.5 billion we save and use it to eradicate the 2-child cap, which would free up vast amounts of money for the Scottish Government because we mitigate that 2-child cap here. It doesn't exist in Scotland. So it would free up a swathe of money for the Scottish Government to invest in other services. But, as I say, why don't we give Ukraine 1.4 billion and actually get the diplomats to fucking work, try to find a solution to the problem in Ukraine and Russia? But no money. Can't scrap the 2-child cap, but we can give 3.9 billion a year for the next 6 years to Ukraine to fight the Russians. Absolutely mental. Mental. Kevin. John Kevin. Now, John, the one problem with scrapping the House of Lords is they do that, the Treaty of Union ceases to exist. In that treaty, there must be 16 hereditary lords from Scotland in that House of Lords, so it needs to exist for the treaty to exist. So it always cracks me up when I hear politicians telling us that they've no money to eradicate poverty or to lift 250,000 children this year out of poverty in England and Wales. But they can find 3.9 billion for Ukraine and fuck knows how much for Israel. Okay. Let's move on, shall we? Owner of OVO Energy says Scotland could have the cheapest energy in Europe if the government introduced regional pricing. Gary Jackson, founder of OVO Energy, wants to see regional energy markets to bring down the prices. And he also says one of the reasons why our prices are so high is failings in the grid system. He was telling Laura Koonsberg on Sunday there that his company have got permission to build a huge solar farm somewhere in the Midlands, apparently. But it's going to take 13 years to get planning permit, to get hooked up to the grid. 13 years! Fuck's sake. So I went and had a look to see who owns the national grid. Well, it's quite interesting, really. It's in private hands. Here in Scotland, the energy providers own the grid. Scottish Power and Scottish Southern Electric own the grid. In England, there's bloody a multitude of companies running regional grids. Some of them for Europe, some of them for America, some of them for the Middle East, some of them for the Far East. No wonder they can't get new power supplies online. Each one's in their own wee area and doesn't want to invest. Sorry, it was Octopus Energy, Evan. I say OVO, it's because I'm way OVO. Sorry, it's Octopus Energy, that's Greg Jackson's the founder of. So, one of the big problems here in Scotland, I mean, the energy producers here in Scotland own the grid. You think they're going to bring the prices down? Or make access to the grid easier for multiple providers? No. Any fuck. That would be defeating the purpose. They're the guys that are selling us the power. They want to control that market. But in England, it's a hodgepodge. It's a mess. Once again, something which should have been in public hands and was in public hands is now in private hands. And apparently that's one of the reasons why our electricity prices are so high. People who want to produce energy, which would force the prices down, can't get access to the grid. And as I say, this Octopus guy or whatever it was, he wants regional pricing because regional markets, you get more competition apparently. So they tell me. Or so he tells us. Anyway, we'll see what Labour have to do about it, or will do about it as it comes. As I say, but in England, I couldn't believe it when I was having a look. This area is owned by an American company. This area is owned by a Middle Eastern country. This area is owned by a Far Eastern country. This area is owned by Holland. This one by for Belgium. That one by France. I'm fucking mental, man. Where's your summer gone, Wally? Look at your one day. Right, let's move on. Today, this week's NHS bad story is the SAS, the Scottish Ambulance Service. Now, recent report tells us that for a Category 2 call out in England, that's strokes, heart attacks and things like that, the average time for an ambulance is 34 minutes. The same waiting time in Scotland is 8 minutes and 34 seconds. So it takes 4 times longer to get an ambulance in England than what it does to get one for a heart attack or a stroke in Scotland. A Category 2 ambulance. Now, the actual official time that somebody who is cast as Category 2 should wait in England and Wales and in Scotland is 18 minutes. So in Scotland, we managed to do it in 8 minutes and 34 seconds. In England, it's 32 minutes, 4 times slower. So, in order to keep the good news for the people of Scotland, the BBC are running the story of how you can't get an ambulance in Scotland. Apparently they're all stacked up outside hospitals again. Apparently they are stacked outside hospitals, especially in the East Coast. Well, I guess it's time for Davey to do another field trip, folks. Because I don't believe for 1 second that they're stacked outside hospitals. Because, well, I've been to a few hospitals recently. With Sarah, with myself, with David. And I've never seen ambulances stacked up in ambulance bays outside hospital. So according to the BBC, we can't get ambulances here because they're stacked up outside hospitals. So it's time for Davey to go and do a little bit of investigative journalism. I'll have a wee run round Lanarkshire and round Glasgow, and then I'll pop over into Fife before Thursday. And the people who live in these areas, who helped me the last time by going along to the local hospital or while passing the local hospital and having a wee look at the ambulance bays, can use the same channels you used the last time to give me information. You'll get me through Messenger. Okay, but it's time for a field trip because I don't believe this bollocks for 2 seconds. Report out telling us that you get an ambulance 4 times faster in Scotland than what you do in England, and all of a sudden we don't have any ambulances that are stacked up outside fucking hospitals. I think it's about time I did another wee bit of investigative journalism. So, boots on. Next 2 days off, David's on a field trip. Full report to follow. Okay. Right, moving on to the wider world. Yeah. America's in meltdown. Wow. Rather than being the world's largest economy and the world's police force at this point in time, it's an absolute meltdown. The presidential elections are up in November, and the 2 candidates, well, one's having his mental abilities questioned, and the other one's a liar. A liar on such a scale, he makes Boris Johnson look like a rank fucking amateur. Hey, don't worry, George. The paramedics who gave me the information the last time round, no doubt will see this and will be back telling me what the situation is for the Scottish Ambulance Service. Hey, after watching this broadcast, as I say, I will venture out myself. So, on the first of the 2 presidential candidates, on the first of them, Biden is his mental ability is being put into question after a TV debate where he just totally confused. And then, of course, there was the G7 summit where he seemed to wander off and phase out. And at the recent NATO summit, he called Zelensky Putin. So there's pressure on Biden to stand down from within, but it doesn't look as if he's going to. And then, of course, on the second one, Trump, convicted felon, serial liar, and now apparently somebody tried to assassinate him. Now, the person who tried to assassinate him, we're being told, wasn't a member of Trump's own party, the Republican Party. A young fella, 20-odd-year-old. His name was Thomas Matthew Crooks. And he was part of a group within the party called the Progressive Future PAC. So, whether that a Progressive Future PAC like Trump within the party or no, I don't know. The motive for this young fella having a pop at try to kill Trump isn't quite clear yet. Okay. Now, can I condone people trying to assassinate politicians? Don't care what colour, what creed, what party, what part of the world. It's not on. Now, there's two things we do know for a fact about this Thomas Matthew Crooks. One, he's a terrible fucking shot. And two, he'll not be doing it again. Because he's dead. But as I say, it's not a good idea to be taking pot shots at politicians. You know, you tend to end up pan breed. But it's not on anyway. Whether what you think of a politician or no doesn't matter. They've been elected at some point, they've put their head above the parapet, they're no there to be shot at. Well, that's generally what happens, but it's normally verbal. It's normal verbal, it's normal debate, it's normally words. But to actually physically assault a politician or try to assassinate a politician, folks, that's no good. And we're at a place where people are that disappointed with their politicians that they're having a go at them violently. And that's not on. But there's a message there for the public and there's a message there for the politicians. Politicians, clean your fucking acts up. Because it's got to the point where the public are so frustrated with you, they are actually taking physical action. So politicians, clean your act up. Members of the public, that's not how we deal with things. You don't like the politician, you wait until the next chance and you elect them out of office. Can you go taking assassinating people and things like that? But that's how low the public's trust in politicians have become and in the political systems have become. Not just here, right around the world. Trump's just the latest in a long line. You know, just the latest. We've had South American presidents shot, South American candidates shot, we've had North American candidates shot, we've had politicians in the UK killed, we've had politicians in Europe killed. People are so disillusioned with our political systems and frustrated that it's turned into violence. And politicians, you better get your act together. But because if you don't, the members of the public will have a go. And it appears it turned in violent. It's not just a dialogue anymore. It's a bad sign for our democracies, folks. A really bad sign for our democracies. So it is. We'll catch up with it. Eggs and milkshakes are okay, Stephen. It shouldn't be. Our trust in our political systems and the people who work in it shouldn't be that low that we're actually gone to that point. Well, people like Farage, the scum bubble to the top, and the only thing you can really do is throw a milkshake at them because you're frustrated with them. That milkshake is what leads to stones, leads to knives, leads to bullets. So no, milkshakes and eggs are not good either. What we need is trust in the political systems around the world, and there is none. That could lead to fucking chaos. And I mean that. But as I say, two things we learned about this Thomas Matthew Crooks. One, he was a bad shot. And two, shooting at the president's a bad idea, ex-president's a bad idea, or presidential candidate's a bad idea, because you end up pan breed. Sorry about that, folks. It is summer and the children are on holiday. They do like an ice cream. I'll shut this window. Your milkshakes, they bring all the boys into the yard, do they, Stephen? Yeah, okay. Right. They say, folks, and I mean this sincerely, the level the level of trust in our political systems has got to the point where violence is becoming common. And that needs to be sorted. Kevin, you want a cone? By the time I get to your house, Kevin, it'll be fucking melted. You must be about 7 miles from me. Uh-huh. Right, let's move on as we're already on the wider world. Support for Ukraine increases after NATO summit. And NATO offer Ukraine a guaranteed route into NATO. No route map, but yep, you're getting to join. Talk about poking a fucking bear. Huh? You know. And it's also seen the NATO summit will also see the return of mid-range nuclear weapons to Germany. Now, at the end of the Cold War, under the mid-range nukes pack, nuclear weapons were taken out. American-based nuclear weapons were taken out of Germany. Well, they're going back in now because of the threat from Putin. As I say, in Ukraine is getting much more weaponry. 5 air defence systems from America, fighter jets from Denmark, Norway and round about. But the big problem is for Ukraine is manpower. And there ain't going to be any boots on the ground. That ain't going to happen. That would ignite World War III, or at least a Europe-wide war. So ain't going to happen. And as I say, Ukraine's running out of manpower. The manpower they have got is exhausted. So, not good. And meanwhile, of course, Russia is still making advances. The Russians now have most of the Donbass region, all right. They control and the next door region of Melitopol. Right, I think that's how you say it. Anyway, the regions in the Donbass that the Russians control is Mariupol, Donetsk, and Luhansk. And the regions of Donbass, which are still held by the Ukrainians, are Bakhmut and the Adivka regions. So they have lost almost all of the Donbass, which is what? The Donbass, but that's the area that Russia wanted. Before Boris Johnson's intervention, Zelensky was going to let them take the Donbass and control it for 7 years and then have a referendum on whether the people of the Donbass wish to join Russia or stay Ukrainian. So this war could have been avoided. It could have been avoided if it hadn't been for the intervention of Boris Johnson. And no doubt the Americans. Suppose we should. Helen, you're late. You'll catch the start up later. Well, just get your behookie on the naughty step. Don't burn your arse on the candle. So, the war in Ukraine isn't going anywhere. It's a meat grinder. It's pointless. Like I said earlier, Starmer's managing to find 3.9 billion a year to give to Ukraine, but he can't find 2.5 billion to scrap the 2-child cap here in the UK. You see, how about we put diplomats to work doing what diplomats are supposed to do, and that sort out these tensions between nations, while saving enough money to be able to eliminate the 2-child cap on the benefit system. Mental. Let's see what this says. Scottish Resistance Group. Oh, who gives a damn what the Scottish Resistance Group has to say? James Scott's a nice guy and things like that, but so what? Scottish resistance. That's where the idiot Sean Clerkin started out. Right, as I say, let's hit Israel and Gaza, shall we? Because that's another meat grinder. Except for there's only one side of the meat being ground here. Anyway, the latest. Hamas-run health ministry. Hamas-run health ministry? You mean Gazan-run health ministry says 141 killed in Israeli strikes since Saturday. The IDF say that senior Hamas commander killed in Israeli airstrikes. Well, it could be any one of that 141. They can just make it up as they go along. Lamis who are meeting Netanyahu, and Lamy is demanding an immediate ceasefire. Sorry, he's urging an immediate ceasefire. But what he isn't doing is saying to Netanyahu, if you don't bring in a ceasefire now, no more military aid or weaponry from the UK. Yeah, well, we could do that, Neil. We could keep our fingers at the arms race all together and save 200 billion quid on bloody whatever it is, a Trident. That wouldn't have build a few hospitals, hire a few nurses, feed a few wains, eh? Anyway, where were we? Back to Gaza. Anyway, as I say, the Lammy's are there, the new foreign secretary, but he's not putting a gun to Netanyahu's head. He's urging him nicely. Could you please stop? Could you please stop killing these people? And apparently, the weekend there, an Israeli kibbutz was attacked by Hamas. And the Americans are shutting down the floating platform to take aid in through the sea into Gaza. So, not looking good for the people of Gaza. Not looking good for the Palestinian people either, as settler activity grows in the West Bank. It would appear that Israel is above the law. It would appear that Israel is above the law. And any attempts to thwart Netanyahu isn't working. Although it is fair to say the Israeli economy is on its arse. But that's not because of official sanctions. That's because of people like you and I taking our wee phones into supermarkets and scanning barcodes and scanning things to find out whether the products we buy have got ingredients for Israel or the occupied territories in them, and then putting them back on the shelves. That's what's making a mess of the Israeli economy, and we have to keep it up. We have to boycott everything the Israelis sell. Everything. And then we need international companies, private sector companies, to refuse to take anything from Israel or to send anything to Israel. Unfortunately, because of a change in the law here, UK-wide, our public sector have got absolutely no choice but to buy products from Israel if it's the cheapest place to buy them for public procurement. Because our public bodies are not allowed to boycott anybody except for who the UK government says they're to boycott. So if Glasgow City Council decides it doesn't want to procure anything for Israel, but Israel has the cheapest and is best value for the public, then they've got to do it. But of course, as we all know, there's ways around that. You know, there's excuses like, all right, it might be 10 pence dearer to get it for Grangemouth than what it is to get it for Israel. But look at the carbon footprint I'm saving. No, saving the environment, kids. So there is ways around it. But we do need to. we, humanity, if our governments won't put a stop to what's going on in Israel, then we've got to do our best ourselves to do it. And that means boycotting anything that's Israeli. Anything and anything that comes to the occupied territories. Shut their economy down. The people will not be long turning on the government, and that'll take their mind off slaughtering poor buggers in Gaza. Right, folks. That's what I've got for you today. I know it's not the full hour, but by the time I'll do this bit, I'll be in 55 minutes. That's what I've got for you today. As I say, we won't be seeing the other Davy for a wee while. And if he does pop up, it'll be a guest appearance for a short period of time to say hello to you guys. Because he needs to get himself well. And this latest setback is really, really serious. And after I've spoken to him tomorrow, I will then speak to you guys about what the problem is and things like that. If he tells me it's all right to tell you what the problem is, okay? Hi, Melanie. So, as I say, thanks again, folks, for watching such great numbers. And I mean great numbers. Up there, the 200 mark as usual. And thanks very much for your super chats. Thanks very much to the moderators for looking after at least the YouTube comments. And say, thanks very much for supporting the channel the way you do. And as I say, we're due the money in that you have donated this month between the 21st and the 26th. And when it comes into the account, I'll start firing it out and I'll tell you which food banks and which area gets it as it goes, okay? So thanks again, folks, as I say. Let's see. I'm astonished at how many of you actually have an appetite for this stuff. And I do try and give you honest opinions, and the numbers I give you are checked, double checked, and treble checked. Okay. And I guess we better mention Spain winning the Euros and Bob McIntyre winning the Scottish Open. There you go. So commiserations to our brothers and sisters and cousins in England. And congratulations to our brothers and sisters and cousins in Spain. And just as a wee nose tweaker, one thing's for sure, it was never coming home. You didn't invent the fucking game. The game was invented in Aberdeen. So it wasn't your home to come to. All right. Right, folks. Thanks again. We will see you on Thursday. By that time, I've been out and about and had a wee look round about the hospitals to see how many of these ambulances are stacked up, apparently. All right. Now, you guys have a nice day. Be careful. There is a new wave of infection out there. I can't use the C word because YouTube doesn't like it. So take care. Look after each other. Back on Thursday.